I think that as moms, we strive to do the best that we can for, yes, ourselves, but ultimately for that baby. And it's like you can do something to benefit baby and you can do something to benefit you. And if you take care of yourself, then ultimately you get to take better care of that baby.
Welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast, a weekly podcast providing career and creative inspiration to help you build a purpose-filled life. If you're interested in tapping into your creative potential, pursuing a career with passion, and building on your biggest and best resource, yourself, please join me on this path. I'm your host, Nancy Moore, and I want you to know that I'm on this journey with you. So let's get started. Motherhood is a beautiful gift, but it isn't always smooth sailing, especially for new moms and those with littles. That's why it's important to have a supportive community around you. 2 Tulsa moms decided to build their community by starting a healthy activity, walking, and they wanted to include others. So they have been blown away by their interest in what they've seen. Learn more about this friend duo, Hannah Smith and Tristen Swengle, and Mom Walk Tulsa, as well as the benefits of being connected to community and a great group of women who are experiencing the same season of life. Okay, so Hannah Smith and Tristen Swengle, welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast, ladies.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, so I have been looking forward to visiting with you all because you have worked on a concept, growing a concept that helps with building community for moms. And it's called Mom Walk Tulsa. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that and the details. But first, I would love for my listeners to get to know you both. And I haven't done a lot of podcasts where it's 2 people. So I might just say, Hannah, let's start with you.
Okay, I am Hannah Smith. I have lived here in Tulsa since the beginning of 2020. My husband is from here, but I'm a military kid, so I grew up moving around and landed at Oklahoma State where I met my husband. And then, go Pokes. We ended up back in Tulsa, close to my in-laws, which has been wonderful. I have a 3-year-old and 1-year-old twins. And so that is pretty much what my life consists of right now. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I really wouldn't have it any other way. So that's what my life is like.
Oh, neat.
Right.
Good. Okay,
well, I'm Tristen. I am an Oklahoman. I was born and raised in Tulsa. Pretty much been here my entire life, minus school. I went to physical therapy school over in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So I am a pelvic floor physical therapist is what I specialize in, and I love it. So anything from bowel, bladder, sexual function, pregnant, postpartum, male and female. If you have a pelvis and you are over the age of 18, then I treat anything with that. So that's super fun. That is what I do by day. And then I am a mom to a perfect little almost 1-year-old. He turns 1 on Halloween.
Oh,
his name is Scotty, and he's perfect. And then my husband, Jared, and I have been married for 10 years. We've known each other since we were 15, and so kind of experienced a lot of life together. And yeah, I think that's about it. I love being a mom. If I could be a mom only, I would. However, I love getting to serve my moms and my people at Vitality Public Health, which is where I work. And so it's great to know that he's being well taken care of when I'm at work doing what I love. So I still get to have that part and serve other people while still being the best mom I can be.
Okay.
So.
Well, you do a lot too. I mean, you work and then also, are a mom. And so let's get into the Mom Walk Tulsa. Mm-hmm. So Mom Walk Tulsa is something that was around, but it wasn't being utilized. Is that right? Or why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit,
Sure.
Hannah, because you have an interesting story on how you got involved with Mom Walk Tulsa.
Yeah, so it's actually been about a year ago now that I was invited to go to the Tulsa Mom Walk, is what they were calling it. And I was not ready to conquer the outside world with my three. It just felt too daunting to take everybody out. I'm a pretty rigid schedule type person, and if naps get messed up, it kind of just throws me off. And so my twins were only 7 months old at the time, and I just wasn't quite ready to go. And by the beginning of the year, I think for various reasons, they were no longer meeting. And a few months later, I messaged her and asked if I could step in to lead it, because I was ready for that community. And I was like, okay, a walk sounds manageable now. Like, the pressure of just going on a walk is so much smaller than, my kids are strapped in. So I don't have to chase them in 3 different directions. It felt like something manageable that I could do, and that I could actually communicate with another mom without chasing people. It has come with its own challenges. I usually don't have all of them strapped in. I usually am carrying someone or chasing someone, but it has been a really great just way to connect with other moms. But this other mom gave me the blessing to go ahead and do it, and so I reached out to Tristen, and we got going, because the advice I was given was to do it with a co-host. So Tristen was my girl, and we got going, and I have not looked back.
So why was it important for you to get it going?
That's a good question. I mean, it just kept coming back to me. So it was, typically when I was walking. So I walk in my neighborhood. I used to walk in my neighborhood a lot. And it's just kind of like a circle. And I would just walk in circles. It's not very fun. And so I was actually on a run this particular time. And I just kind of was like, hey, why don't you do that? What happened to that Mom Walk thing? And I felt like a spark lit, and it was just very intriguing to me, and I wanted to do it. It sounded really fun for me. Like I said, I moved here at the beginning of 2020, and finding mom friends has been hard. And so I was, I'm looking for that community too. So those are my reasons, and I don't know. It felt right.
Mm-hmm. For me, I can put myself so easily back in your spot. And here I'm an empty nester now, but those feelings of a little, you're happy to be a mom, but it's a little isolating, and it's a little lonely when you're home during the day and you're looking around and your house is maybe a mess, and you don't know what to, pull out and feed, and you want to be healthy, and you want to do fun things with your kids, and be the best you can be. But you also, for me, I did crave community, and so I would have loved to have an organization like yours be available and around when I was going through that stage. But I kind of just created my own little group in my neighborhood, and we would get out and we would walk. But everybody doesn't have that option. Luckily, a lot of us in my neighborhood had kids that were the same age, and we could get together, and we even organized I kind of organized the play groups and got things going, because I did crave that community and connection in person.
Yes.
And so
it's so different in person.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah. And to make that connection, I think it's easier to make a connection when you look at somebody and you can kind of even see the situation they're in, whether they see you chasing kids or they're strapped in, or, kind of what you have and what you're going through, and they can relate.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So, yes. Okay. So what benefits have you guys seen from these gatherings?
The main goal of Mom Walk Tulsa was just community, and like bringing moms to a place where they felt like they could, I don't like using the word commiserate, because I think having kids is like the biggest blessing ever, but to where you just don't feel so alone and isolated of like, oh, you're also chasing your children around 24/7, and
I'm not crazy. I'm not alone in this.
Yes.
This is not an individual experience. This is more normal than I am allowing myself to believe.
Yeah, because you feel like you're on an island, and whether you have one or you have multiples, it's hard to kind of see outside of that whenever you're inside your four walls. And so you feel so isolated. And if you are a stay-at-home mom and your husband goes to work or your partner goes to work and you are the one wrangling those babies all day long, then it's just like you kind of feel like you just empty yourself. And being able to be a part of Mom Walk Tulsa and try and facilitate those relationships in that community, we feel like it's just allowed moms a way to fill up so that you can continue to pour into your kids. And especially for moms who like aren't going to go out there and make a neighborhood play date or something like that.
Sounds so fun.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like an absolute blast. Some people just aren't going to do it, or you don't even have the means in your neighborhood. Like maybe everyone is having brand new babies and you have 8 and 9-year-olds, whatever. And so there's been such a vast variety of moms that have come, first-time moms, and even moms who are just pregnant that want the community now and want to meet moms, and then moms of multiples. I mean, Hannah has brought together so many moms of twins and triplets that have come.
Been so cool.
Which is awesome to just get to put all of that together. Because it's hard. Like, and I get the benefit as a working mom to go, and I would say most of the moms are stay-at-home moms or work part-time or work from home or something like that. But just to be able to be a part of it and see things just like grow and watch people walk up and be like, oh my gosh, hey, so-and-so, like, I'm so happy that you're here. You get to see those kind of repeat people that continue to come back, and it is just really fun.
Okay, let me ask then, for somebody who is thinking about going or, hasn't ever attended, if you could just kind of share a little bit about what you do to include them, or, how it works if they do show up.
Yeah, so when you walk up, we have a little station somewhere with name tags. And
I love it. I love a name tag.
It just helps so much. Like, it just helps make you kind of feel included in the group. You know who's actually with us, and then it doesn't make you have to ask the awkward question. It's like, I know we met last week or last walk, but what's your name again? You can kind of just figure that out, and it's just that like quick connection point. I don't know. I love the name tags.
Yes.
And then we do raffle tickets or goodie bags, just kind of depending on what our sponsors do. And we just kind of hang out for about 15 minutes as we let everybody trickle in. And so we really hope in that time that moms, especially the moms who have been coming, reach out to moms who are standing alone. Or if you are an extroverted mom, like, we hope you talk to somebody who is out there. We're all there to meet other moms. Like, that is, I really truly believe that's everybody's goal when they come. So we hope that that's what's happening. And then Tristan's usually the one that's talking, because I'm usually wrangling at least one child. But she always asks who came alone, and if you want to raise your hand, we just encourage you guys to connect with each other. Like, instead of just hoping it happens, we kind of say, hey, if you see somebody else raise their hand, like, hook up with them, walk, and like start a conversation. That way there's a chance to meet before the walk starts. And then we've noticed that there are times where moms kind of get stuck by themselves in the walk, just between groups of moms. And so we've started asking, hey, look around you. Make sure there's not a mom that's alone. Like, please try to communicate with the moms around you. So we try to give those reminders. We try to, hook up with moms that are alone while we're walking. And a lot of the moms that come do the same. So if you're wanting to come, people want you there.
Okay.
We want you there.
Yes. Yeah. And it is important for people to get themselves there, but people also have to make an effort.
Yes.
The new ones have to make an effort to get to know the ones
hard,
who haven't.
But I mean, one of the best pieces of friendship advice I feel like I got it from a podcast. I don't remember when or where exactly, but is to just go first. It's not easy advice necessarily, but if you go first and you just say, hey, my name's Hannah, can I walk with you today? Or, you know, how old's your kid? And just start a conversation with something really simple and basic. There's a really low chance that that's going to backfire.
Right.
There's a really low chance,
Yeah.
especially at Mom Walk Tulsa, because we're all there to have conversations and meet new moms.
I think it was on your feed where I was looking and it had ideas for conversation
Yeah,
topics.
we've done that a couple
And
of times.
I thought that was so clever because even people who have gone several times and you know,
Should do
would
that
have
again.
something different to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I think, fun.
And I mean, especially if it's hard for you to show up, if you come with a question loaded, that's going to make it that much easier.
Yeah.
Like if you already know, like, hey, I'd like to work in talking about, oh no, I'm blanking. I don't know, what your favorite easy dinner is, or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
You already have something in your back pocket if you run into a dead spot in your conversation.
Yeah. That's a good tip in life though.
Yes.
You know, just in a lot of different situations, if you can have something in your back pocket, even going to something after work or a mixer or a party or a, you know, whatever. If you have a couple of things that you would like to talk about or ask people about,
Yeah. And
I
it can
think
be the
that
same
just helps.
thing every time. I mean,
There you go.
Once you have those open-ended questions, then it doesn't make it so hard.
I'll have to make another one of those posts.
Yes, we've done that before. We're like, these are going to be the questions. Who's your favorite reality TV mom or something? Is something we did one time. Or
simple.
give people something to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. Okay. So you guys have moved into doing a little more than walking.
Yes.
It looks like. So tell me about some other activities that you all are working to kind of include others in.
Sure. So I'm kind of just trying to see what people want from this community. We have been blown away with the number of moms that have come out and continue to come out. We find it so very cool and have kind of just seen like, hey, this is more of a need than I think we realized. And you know, we only meet twice a month, sometimes 3. And so while that's great connection, we're also kind of looking for ways to deepen the friendships. So we've started what's called just meetups. And the point is for you to take it and say, hey, I live in this suburb, or I live over here, and this is the park that I really like to go to, and this is when I'm going to be there. And then we kind of just put it out to the Mom Walk community. We are doing our best to keep it safe, and we don't like broadcast locations publicly, but we're kind of just saying like, hey, like, because we have moms come from Owasso and South Broken Arrow and Coweta and Jenks and all over to come meet together. But sometimes it's hard to, like, sometimes you meet a friend and you live 30 minutes away from each other. So we're trying to facilitate the friendships that are physically close, or just allowing the moms who don't mind making the drive. So just park dates or anything that's going on in the community that, like, hey, this library story time sounds fun. Like, we're gonna go do that. And so we did that this past week. Went to a story time and then went to Lauren A. And we had a bunch of moms come and just get to be in community together. And it's really cool.
Yeah, that's neat. I like that it's expanded a little bit.
has.
But with the my favorite though activity for me personally is getting exercise. You know, and building community. So the Mom Walk, I like that that's kind of your
Main
your main thing that you do,
Yeah.
because for me, walking or exercising, that's my stress release. And so I was always putting the kids in the stroller and, you know, walking somewhere. And so, I like there are offshoots though of
it's
people.
been cool.
Yeah.
We've connected with like a couple of, I guess, local gyms before where they've like done pop-ups for us, which has been really fun.
Okay.
And so like Pure Barre has done a pop-up and Orange Theory. And so like we put that out there and it's like, if you want to come, it's all free. Like Mom Walk Tulsa is free. Everything that we do is free. I guess we did the zoo walk. So if you didn't have a membership, then you paid a little bit for that. But these pop-ups are just like an opportunity of like, hey, come out and let's exercise, let's sweat together, let's have a good time. And that's kind of been our goal, is being able to connect moms with just kind of how they like to move. Is like trying to have something active at almost each walk, if it's like a gym owner or a gym group or whatever, because it is a great, I mean, we need to keep up with those babies. They move and they groove.
And everyone's gonna exercise differently, so not everything's gonna, not even through every season you'll do different things, so
trying to reach just all those different, I think that's what's also been really fun about Mom Walk, is there's such a variety. And so I know at one walk we were like, let's kind of split up into our, I don't want to say preferred group, but like, where are our crunchy moms at?
Categories.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. Like, where's our crunchy moms at? Like,
what's that mean?
So crunchy mom? More like natural and holistic. And I don't know. I consider myself kind of crunchy. So like you make your own sourdough and like you do all sorts of other fun things that it could get real political real quick. But and then there's like silky, and so it's like, no, I want all the things done for me, because in this season of life that's just a lot easier. Or like first time moms, twin moms, not from Tulsa. And so we kind of like that way you can somewhat find those people who you kind of align with.
Well, and it gives you, in a group of 30-ish moms, it kind of narrows you down and says, hey, you already have something in common with someone in this group. You don't have to go like, okay, I walked with someone and we are in completely different stages of life, and sometimes that's totally fine. Sometimes that's amazing. But yeah, we tried the category walk and that was fun.
Just interesting to know, like, oh, I'm not the only one who's doing that. No, other people are doing that too. So it's kind of fun, and those things can come up in conversation to where you're like, okay, well, we're really different, or oh my gosh, we're just two peas in a pod. So it makes it really fun with all of that.
And it's great to meet somebody different too, because different perspective, different backgrounds. I love that, but then also somebody who is like, that you can relate to in that season. One thing that I thought was very interesting is Hannah met somebody who has a 3-year-old and then also twin 1-year-old.
I have met 3 moms now with the same age gap.
Oh, 3?
Yes.
Okay.
2 of them are like very similar. So their oldest boys are within a year. So one is like 6 months older than my son, and one is like a few months younger, and then they have the same age gap with twins. So that has been a humongous blessing to, I think, all 3 of us, because it's just another like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, this is, you can relate to the exact situation, whereas a lot of moms, they can sympathize, but it's not the same. And so that has just been really, really helpful. And like, I met them the first few walks, and that just lit another fire for me of, I want everyone who comes here to meet a mom that has like this close of a similarity to their life, so that they can just say, okay, like, I understand you, and just be that sounding board for each other.
It sounds like you're such a blessing to others, but when you bless others, you get your, blessing yourself as well. And so I like so much that this has been such a blessing for you both, this organization, because I'm sure it's a lot of work, and you're saying it's free to everybody, which I love that there's not a cost, but it's, takes a lot of time and planning and coordinating and purchasing name tags and everything else that you're thinking about doing to make sure that this community of ladies is happy.
Yeah.
And so I think that's wonderful. So I just felt like that story was so different and unique to find somebody that, or multiple people that kind of have that same situation.
Yeah. I've been so grateful.
Yeah. That's so cool.
It's really cool.
So, okay, so I want to ask Tristen about this because your occupation as a physical therapist has a specialization. And you walked up, so we're recording at my house, and you saw my Arkansas flag.
Yes.
And so my daughter is a senior at the University of Arkansas, but I did grow up in Stillwater and did go to OSU. So I love both of you all. So anyway.
Blue pig.
Yes. we can do, yes, we can do blue pig
I
too.
won't do the whole thing.
Yes. So anyway, but you attended Arkansas and you have a specialization in pelvic floor health.
Yes.
And I am not familiar with that at all. And you did in your introduction talk about it a little bit, but if you could talk about that just a little bit more and who you help, because I think it would be beneficial for moms, especially to know what you do.
Yeah, and I mean, moms are probably like 75%, maybe 70% of who we see. And, you know, pelvic health is not just isolated to those who have had children in any stage. But kind of the way that I always talk to people is like, if you're once postpartum, then you're always postpartum. Like, there's not just a time frame of like, oh, for between years 0 and 1, I'm postpartum. And then after that, like, I'm out of that stage. Like, you gave birth once, you've given birth. You're always in that postpartum period. And so that's kind of been the fun part of Mom Walk too, is I love getting to work with moms. But that was something that I became really interested in my 3rd year of physical therapy school, just as I got to learn a little bit more about how common pelvic floor dysfunction was. And having dabbled with a little bit myself, like whenever I was first married and thinking like, oh, well, I guess this is just the way it's going to be. And then when I learned there was an option, I was like, holy cow. Like, okay, first off, there's an option. So that's one thing. Second off, if there is an option, then clearly I'm not the only one who's experiencing this, and so many other people are. And especially having grown up in the Bible Belt, I just feel like so often, especially as women, and like moms in general, or women in general, we just kind of fall back on, well, that's just the way it's going to be, so I'm just going to deal with it. And when it came to pelvic health, in terms of if that means like being with your partner or having babies or whatever, I just didn't really feel like that was, I wasn't willing to resolve to that. Like, just because I had babies doesn't mean I have to pee on myself for the rest of my life, or because so many people are like, well, I had babies, so, you know, this is just what happens. This is normal. And I think what I probably say in almost every single initial evaluation that I have with someone is pelvic floor dysfunction is common, but it is not normal. Like, any type of incontinence that's happening, be it your bowel or your bladder, or core weakness, or back pain, or pain with intercourse, pressure, anything. None of those things are normal. And it can be like kind of a generational thing that's passed down of, well, my mom had this, and her mom had this, so I have this, and this is just the way it is. And what I'm really passionate about in my practice is being able to just educate and empower women on like, so this is what's going on, and there's something that you can do for it. I'm going to teach you how to do it. I'm going to help you do that. But also my goal is to help you to where this is something that you can take ownership of and control of. I want to be a means to an end for people. I don't want you to come and see me for the rest of your life. I want to empower you and give you those tools that you need. And maybe it's that you do implement those on a very consistent basis for the rest of your days, or that they're just tools for your toolbox, to where I know what I need to do if XYZ presents itself. That's what I can do. So getting to just educate women, and educate and empower are kind of the best words that I can think of. But that this doesn't have to be what you deal with just because you had babies, or just because you are a female. That doesn't have to be your normal. It's the best job. I can't imagine doing anything else. But honestly, anyone with a pelvis. I love getting to work with moms who are pregnant or postpartum, and getting to help them on their pregnancy journey to like give them the best possible experience, because I think there's so much negativity around, like negative talk, if you will, around like birth, and there's a lot of scary things and a lot of information that's just kind of being thrown at us as moms to be, or anything like that I just try and calm the waters a little bit.
Simplify.
Yeah, because it's so overwhelming. And I think that as moms, we strive to do the best that we can for, yes, ourselves, but ultimately for that baby. And it's like you can do something to benefit baby and you can do something to benefit you. And if you take care of yourself, then ultimately you get to take better care of that baby. So making that pregnancy journey enjoyable, because you don't have to be miserable while you're pregnant. You can actually really enjoy pregnancy. I loved being pregnant. And then even throughout childbirth, giving you tools to where you can have more control. Because I feel like a lot of that has been taken away from us, with hospital births especially. So like you can advocate for yourself. And then even that postpartum period, like, let's get you back. You can bounce back. And I don't mean bounce back in terms of like, oh, we're going to look like what we did 10 years ago before we even considered having babies. But like bounce back in terms of like, I'm strong and I feel confident in my body and I know what I'm using my body for. It's something I could honestly talk about all day.
Okay, so let me ask too, because you mentioned this before we started recording, that being a mom yourself now has influenced the way that you work with other moms. So I said, hang on, let me start recording. So I want to hear the answer to that. Like, how has it affected how you work with other moms?
Yes. So one of the things, whenever I had not had a kiddo and I was still working, or I was doing pelvic health, I would have different home exercises for moms of like, this is what you need to do to address XYZ and to meet your goals. And then they would come in at their next visit and I'm like, so how did your stuff go? I got to do it like once. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to do it more. And I'm like, there's a reason. And so not necessarily like harping on them, but also like, just do your stuff. Like, come on, just do it. And then once I had a kid, I was like, oh, like I've given you 30 minutes of things to do, which if you have no little humans running around at home is like maybe attainable. But if you have one little human, regardless of if that human is 3 weeks old or 3 years old, 30 minutes is hard to carve out. And if you do get to carve that time out, it's like, okay, baby is asleep. Now, are they asleep on me?
Yeah.
Okay, now I have no option. Are they asleep, but I have about 15 other things to do? Or I could exercise. Like, which one is going to serve me better? And so one of my goals has been, one, let's simplify our home exercise program, but also, let's make it functional. Like, let's implement it into you picking up your kids 100 times a day. Let's facilitate that, lifting mechanics when you're doing the laundry or you're unloading the dishwasher, picking up the toys from the tornado that just went through your house, walking up the stairs, putting it into their day to day so that if they're like, I didn't get to actually do, 3 sets of 15 repetitions or whatever, but I was able to think about that every time I picked up my kid. I'm like, that's perfect. And so implementing it into their day-to-day to where it doesn't feel like just something else on their to-do list. But that's the goal, is this needs to be functional. And honestly, being a mom is enough exercise. Chasing after kids and lifting them up, and it's always great because people are like, well, do I need gym equipment? I'm like, you have a progressively overloading human who's just going to continue to grow and get heavier. So no, don't worry about just hold your baby while you squat. Yeah. Or have them do tummy time while you're doing things on all fours.
Yeah.
Most of my mom's kiddos absolutely love getting to be a part of their home exercises. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, when they're playing on the floor, you do a couple of your things on the floor. Because even though you're being productive, you're also getting to spend time with your kid.
I would have loved to have seen that aha moment. After it's interesting.
I don't know when it happened. Probably once I went back after maternity leave.
Okay.
And then when I would hear people say stuff, I was like, oh, yeah, mm-hmm. As a pelvic floor physical therapist, it is hard enough for me to do it. And I found it so frustrating because I'm a very, I'm very type A. I like to get my stuff done. And so I'm like, I know I'm working with type A moms. And so, how can I make these things attainable? Because I've kind of gone through of if I don't get my to-do list done, then I failed. And it's I don't want you to feel like you're failing if you don't get all your stuff done. You did it 50 times when you picked him up off the floor.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's a win.
Yeah.
And then for them to be able to kind of make it a little bit objective of like, oh yeah, I didn't feel XYZ when I did that. Like, it's working. It's like, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was probably my aha moment of like, yep, no, I know. Should you go exercise more consistently? Probably. So should I. But like, it's a little hard to do when you have a very opinionated little human who kind of is dictating all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. So, thank you for sharing that, because I like your perspective on educating and empowering.
Yeah.
Because that's what women need, and maybe need help in a certain area, and that could be embarrassing. And so, just kind of not worrying about, the getting help.
Yes. Yeah.
So fearing getting help, because I feel like you're really in it to make sure in the long run people help improve themselves and their lives. And I didn't even realize people could go even when they're pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
So thanks for, sharing all of that too. So
I love that. One of my favorite things is when I get a pregnant mom who calls and she's like, I don't have any symptoms, but I feel like I just want to have a really good pregnancy and I want to prepare for birth. So can I get in? And I'm just like, oh, look at you, like already advocating for yourself. Because that's probably the best advice that I could give any repeat mom, any first time mom is be your own advocate, not only while you're pregnant and while you're thinking about yourself and like your growing baby, but even once your baby's here. Learn how to advocate now, because you will want to advocate for them when they're here. Mm-hmm. So being able to have that permission, which is kind of crazy that we need it, but I do feel like being a mom is one of the most selfless things that you can do. And so being able to still like advocate for yourself and for your baby while still being selfless. So, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I could talk about it all day.
Well said. I love that. Okay, so in wrapping up, my theme for this year is living purposefully in 2023. So I want to find out from each of you how you are living your purpose or how you're living purposefully. So we'll start with Hannah.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like we have been almost saying this, like the whole podcast. I mean, I feel like my purpose, since I've been young, I have felt like I am called to be a mom, and here I am with 3 very little kids. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't feel like I should be anywhere else, and I do feel like a gifting and calling on my life is like building community and bringing moms together. I do think like organization is one of my strong suits, and so adding Mom Walk in has been like a really cool addition to what I feel like I'm called to do. And so I do think I'm living my purpose, and I think it's something that I have to really intentionally focus on to do well. Because like we've been saying over and over, it's a hard task to do, and it's hard to keep your eyes kind of like where you're at sometimes when things are hard and all 3 kids are crying or clawing, or you have one standing on the table in here and one in the toilet in there and the other trying to get in the fridge or whatever. Like it can be a really mentally challenging place to be, but I don't think that means it's not my purpose. I think it's where I am, and I think that my biggest purpose is to like be filled with the fruit of the Spirit and show my kids that, and that is honestly one of my biggest struggles these days, but I think that's my purpose. And I do think that that's what I'm trying my best to do.
Okay. So I love that. Okay. Tristen?
I would say I feel like your purpose definitely changes in different seasons of life. And something that I have struggled with, but that is also just my reality, is serving right now is my purpose. And serving in like a workspace capacity has never been an issue. Like, I love what I do. I am super passionate about it. I could talk about it all day. And I love getting to empower and educate people all day long. But then even when I go home, still having that servant attitude and that servant heart and not letting myself compare. Just knowing like, no, I'm serving my son. I'm serving my husband. I'm serving my household. And it's not always easy, and there are definitely times where I let the like negative thoughts of comparison like creep into my mind of, well, I'm doing all of this, but then also, again, perspective of I have a family to serve. I have a job that I love, and people who are coming in excited about getting help, and I get to serve them in a really positive way. And I have a home, so I get to clean it, and I have clothes, so I have to do laundry, and I have food, so and I don't even want to say have to. I have food, so I get to cook. All of these amazing blessings that can truly be taken for granted are necessary, and I'm so thankful to have to navigate that to-do list of, okay, I need to get ready, and I need to extras, and I need to cook, and I need to clean the floors, and I need to do this, and I need to do that, like an endless to-do list. But I'm so thankful to have one, because I don't really want to think about what the alternative would look like of not having that. I would rather have a to-do list that's never fully completed and get to just sit on the floor while my house is a disaster playing with my son, because that's what he needs in that moment, even though I would really love to be cleaning or exercising or something like that. But just it's being a servant to my family, but also just being like a servant to the Lord and like being a good steward of what he's given me. I would say that is my current purpose. And it kind of filters into my passion, because I'm passionate about being a mom and passionate about being a pelvic floor physical therapist and a wife. And so, yeah, I would say being a servant for sure.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, ladies, for talking to me and sharing a little about yourselves and your background and your heart for helping moms around Tulsa. And I just really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun today. So thanks for being here.
For having us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap on this week's episode. I want to thank you for listening to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. It means the world to me, and I'd love to connect with you. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter at Passion Sharing. Also, if you like this podcast, it would mean a lot to me for you to subscribe, rate, and review it. And as always, all my show notes will be available on my website, sharingpassionandpurpose.com.